Have you ever wondered what it would be like if animals could truly talk? Not just sounds, not just instinctive calls, but actual words. Human words, spoken back to us. Now, here's the strange part. One group of animals already does something very close to that. Parrots, they don't just make noise. They mimic us. They copy our voices, our laughter, even our emotions. Some parrots can learn hundreds of words, others can hold what seems like real conversations. So the question is, are parrots actually talking, or are they just repeating sounds without understanding anything at all? Let's start with something simple. Humans speak using a very specific system. Air moves from our lungs, passes through our vocal cords, and is shaped by our tongue and lips into words. It's a complex, biological orchestra. But parrots don't even have vocal cords. Instead, they use an organ called the syrinx. It sits deep in their chest, where the trachea splits into the lungs. And unlike the human voice box, the syrinx is incredibly flexible. It allows parrots to produce multiple sounds at the same time. That's right, a parrot can technically layer sounds in a way humans physically can't. But that's only part of the story, because making sounds is one thing, learning them is something else entirely. Here's where things get really interesting. Parrots belong to a rare group of animals known as vocal learners. This means they don't just make sounds instinctively, they learn them by listening and imitating. Humans are vocal learners. Dolphins are vocal learners. Some birds are vocal learners. But most animals, they aren't. A dog can bark, a cat can meow, but they can't suddenly decide to sound like you. A parrot can, and it starts early. Young parrots learn sounds the same way human babies do. They listen carefully, they experiment, they practice. Over time, they refine their sounds until they match what they hear. But here's the real twist. Parrots don't just copy sounds randomly, they copy what matters in the wild. Parrots use vocal learning to fit into their social groups. Each flock develops its own accent, a shared set of calls that identifies who belongs. So when a parrot lies with humans, guess what happens? You become its flock. Your voice becomes the sound it needs to learn. Your words become part of its identity, and suddenly, mimicking you isn't just a trick, it's survival. But does that mean parrots actually understand what they're saying? That's the big question. For a long time, scientists believed parrots were just advanced tape recorders, repeating sounds without meaning. Then came a parrot named Alex. Alex was an African grey parrot, studied by animal psychologist Irene Pepperberg. And what Alex did changed everything. He didn't just repeat words, he used them. Alex could identify colors, shapes, and materials. If you showed him a red wooden cube and asked what color, he would say red. If you asked what shape, he would say square. He could even understand concepts like same and different. And maybe the most surprising moment, when he was tired, Alex would say, "I want to go back." Not repeating, not mimicking, requesting. So what's happening inside a parrot's brain? It turns out parrots have highly developed brain regions related to learning and communication. These areas are surprisingly similar to those found in humans, even though our brains evolved separately. It's a case of convergent evolution, different species, different paths, same solution, complex communication. But still, parrots aren't humans. They don't understand language the way we do. They don't build sentences with grammar or create abstract ideas like poetry or philosophy. What they do is something different. They connect sounds to experiences, to attention, to emotion. If a parrot says hello, it might not fully grasp the concept of greeting, but it knows that word gets a reaction. It knows it creates connection, and in a social species, that's everything. So the next time you hear a parrot speaking, don't think of it as just an animal copying sounds. Think of it as a creature trying to belong, trying to communicate, trying in its own way, to bridge the gap between species. Because maybe the real question isn't, why can parrots talk, but why we're so surprised. That's something else.